In John Perry Barlow's Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace, he rallies against the United States Telecommunications Act of 1996, which aimed to incorporate the newly burgeoning Internet into its communicative folds. Barlow writes the following: Governments of the industrial world, you weary giants of flesh and steel, I come from cyberspace, the new home of mind. On behalf of the future, I ask that you of the past leave us alone. You are not welcome among us. You have no sovereignty where we gather. We have no elected government, nor are we likely to have one. I declare the global social space we are building to be naturally independent of the tyrannies you seek to impose on us. You have no moral right to rule us, nor do you possess any methods of enforcement we have true reason to fear. Barlow's concern is clear. If the internet becomes the possession of a governmental entity, it will soon become just another tool used by that government to oppress the people that it rules. Barlow, who died in 2018, surely saw the way in which technology, and the internet in particular, shaped the US as a democratic society. What I want to focus on in this presentation, however, is not the way that the US has sought to regulate online participation, but rather how, despite the democratic aims of the internet, the way that social media websites are designed and the way that certain comments are prioritized on those sites actually creates a more insular discussion bubble. What Barlow called a global space to be naturally independent of the tyrannies that the government seeks to impose on us is now something that's hyper-connected to real-life political leanings. The idea that the ability to read and write, and therefore more easily participate in politics and human inquiry, is not new. Elizabeth Eisenstein, when writing about Michel de Montaigne, describes how even in the early stages of the written and disseminated word, the 1500s, people were able to feel a sense of shared existence, to feel that the isolating sense of singularity which was felt by the solitary reader had been experienced by another human being was, indeed, capable of being widely shared. James Paul Guy, quoting Paulo Freire's A Pedagogy for Liberation, says that literacy empowers people only when it renders them active questioners of the social reality around them. In Helen Marget's 2018 article, Rethinking Democracy with Social Media, she highlights the importance of social media when it comes to allowing the average citizen to participate in politics. This desire from human connection, communication, and introspection is something that has been at the root of human existence and has arguably just shifted mode of delivery from speech to essays like the one of Montaigne, to classrooms like the ones described by Freire, and to online and social media composition of which Marget studies. So how do these things play out in the modern social media age? Andrew Feenberg says it best. He says that technology exists within the world and has multiple effects on that world. The desire for human connection and political discussion and participation has now taken root in online spaces, and just as important as the viewpoints that are expressed there is the ways in which those websites are designed. I want to look at two websites here, Twitter and Reddit, because they both offer spaces for interaction between people, but also because of the way that they are designed plays a profound role in how people's ideas are expressed, transformed, valued, and devalued. Before I do that though, it's again important to note that, quote, although the design of platforms clearly affects the extent to which echo chambers exist, they are nowhere near as determined or hermetically sealed as some critics suggest. To avoid leaning too heavily towards a technological, deterministic viewpoint, we need to reaffirm that there is still a human aspect to these online spaces. That being said, the actual layout of a website plays a key role in the message that's being shared. As Ben McCorkle says in Rhetorical Delivery as Technological Discourse, we have forgotten that the design of the page does in fact have a hand in conveying meaning, constructing truths, and reinforcing ideology. Let's begin by looking at Twitter. Entirely customizable based upon who you choose to follow, each person's feed will look slightly or much different than any others. This customization is not my chief focus though. Rather, I'd like to look at the way comments on individual tweets are prioritized. Regardless of the popularity of the comment, in Twitter's case likes and retweets, if a user follows someone who has commented on a tweet that they are reading, that comment will appear first. An example of this can be seen here from my personal Twitter feed. I follow Stephen King, and he has commented on President Trump's tweet. While his response is mildly popular with 8,000 or so likes and a little over 500 retweets, it still shows first. Another example can be seen here. Donald Trump Jr.'s original tweet is critical of Kamala Harris's comments, and underneath, we see another Twitter user that I follow showing up as the first comment. His comment is even less popular than Stephen King's, with only 1,000 likes, but we can see connections to Helen Marget's concerns about social media's ability to create echo chambers. If my followers on Twitter all lean a certain way politically, and they are active with comments and retweets, soon my Twitter feed starts to look very insular and runs the risk of becoming incredibly self-fulfilling. In no way am I getting a fair representation of the spectrum of opinions on political issues. Instead, I have created, myself, an echo chamber that yells at the same pitch. This echo chamber creation can be seen on Reddit as well, though in a different manner. Unlike Twitter, Reddit is a website that allows for longer comments and even more bifurcation of political ideologies. Here too, you can have a customizable feed, called the front page, based on interests that you like, called subreddits. These subreddits, however, are where truly insular communities can be found. Here, for example, are posts about a recent US missile strike in Iran that President Trump canceled shortly before it was scheduled to take place. The picture on the left comes from the subreddit called The Donald, a conservative-leaning community whose bio reads, "The Donald is a never-ending rally dedicated to the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump." The picture on the right comes from Politics, a liberal-leaning community whose bio is, "Our politics is for news and discussion about US politics." Already, one is decidedly more partisan than the other, but the real connection to Marget's concerns about echo chambers comes when we look at the comments. Pictured here are the top comments about the Iran missile strike story, sorted by popularity, in this case upvotes. They range from praise for the president's decision to criticism of speculated Democrat responses. Now contrast those with top comments from these on Our Politics. Pardon the language, but here we can see a disdain for the administration's decision, calls for removal of GOP party members, and connections to the Bush administration's war efforts. Whatever side of the political spectrum a person falls on is really irrelevant. What matters here are the ways that comments are prioritized on Reddit, with the highest upvoted appearing first. Popular responses to those comments are then ranked in the same way, being attached in descending order. Helen Marget speaks to this tendency, saying that chains of social influence by which individuals undertake acts of participation and thereby send signals of viability to others are the explanation for how small acts can lead to large-scale mobilization or waves of support. Social media sends signals of viability through likes, shares, follows, and views. So with this, we have the unprecedented ability to establish closed-off communities of discussion. With distinctly flavored political viewpoints, filtered through biased modes of communication, John Perry Barlow's concerns about sovereignty are alleviated. However, this power is not truly democratic. So what does the future hold in regards to social media and democratic participation? More specifically, how can social media ever be able to truly facilitate the sort of democratic aims people say that it has? Andrew Feenberg calls for a more democratic organization of technological society, which implies a redesign of many technologies that underlie these institutions. The New London Group proposes a school pedagogy of civic pluralism, which would create out of diversity and history a new, vigorous, and equitable public realm. However this online democracy is or isn't attained, I think that Helen Marget's ideas offer great insight into how important these online spaces are. She says that the interconnectedness of our political life means that every tiny act of support for something like Brexit campaigns sent a tiny signal of viability out to other voters in a connected cluster of support, even if it was just a comment on a TV debate, which have scaled up to some kind of success within some political microclimate, such as locality or institution or profession, but could have fizzled out into failure. These online spaces do matter, and they do have far-reaching political ramifications, even though they may not be truly democratic practices. What may seem like small, insular communities in online spaces are actually breeding grounds for political movements, one comment at a time.